He was 19 when it all began, thin, sickly, unremarkable. Gaius Octavius was no warrior, no seasoned statesman, just a quiet young man with ambition in his bones. When news reached him that Julius Caesar, his great-uncle, had been killed in the Senate, he didn't run, he didn't hide, he sailed to Rome. Not with soldiers, but with something more powerful, Caesar's name. In his will, Caesar had adopted him, posthumously, and in Rome, that made him heir to everything: glory, danger, and destiny. Rome in 44 BCE was a cracked mask. The Republic still stood, but only just. Caesar's assassins believed they had saved it by killing a would-be king. But instead of stability, they left a vacuum. Factions clashed. The Senate fumbled for control. Mark Antony, Caesar's loyal friend and general, began seizing influence. And then came Octavian, polite, calculating, young. No one expected him to last, but he wasn't interested in glory. He wanted leverage. And Rome was full of men willing to underestimate a boy. Octavian didn't raise armies at first. He raised loyalties. He paid Caesar's veterans from his own purse. He honored his adoptive father with public games, paraded his image, and called himself Caesar the Younger. Slowly, carefully, he stepped into his uncle's shadow. Mark Antony saw him as a nuisance. The Senate saw him as a tool. But Octavian played them both, and when Antony was declared an enemy of the state for attacking a governor in Gaul, Octavian offered his help. He marched with the Senate's armies. After a successful campaign, Octavian returned to Rome, power in hand, but no official title. So he marched again, not against a city, but into it. The Senate caved. At just 19, Octavian was made consul. Now he had legal authority, popular support, and the legacy of Caesar. But he knew none of it would last without strategy. That's when he did something shocking. He allied with his rival, Mark Antony. Along with a third general, Lepidus, they formed the Second Triumvirate, a dictatorship of three. Their first act was vengeance. The proscriptions began, lists of enemies condemned without trial, names posted in the forum, executioners paid in blood and bounty. Cicero, the Republic's greatest orator and fierce critic of Antony, was hunted down. His head and hands were nailed to the speaker's platform. This wasn't politics, it was a purge. Rome's streets ran with fear, and behind the terror stood three men claiming to restore order. But they weren't building peace. They were carving up the world. In 42 BCE, Octavian and Antony turned their armies east to face the last champions of the Republic, Brutus and Cassius. The Battle of Philippi shattered their forces. Brutus fell by his own hand, and with him, the ideal of senatorial rule. Victory came at a price, but Octavian now stood beside Antony, stronger than ever. They split the empire like spoils. Antony took the east, Octavian the west. Lepidus was quietly pushed aside. But two strong men cannot share a single Rome for long. Antony's power grew in Egypt. So did his love for Cleopatra, Queen of the Nile, mother of Caesar's only known son. With Antony, she had more children, half Roman, half royal. They ruled from Alexandria like monarchs, far from Rome's traditions. Back home, Octavian watched, waited. Then he struck, with documents and speeches, not swords. He read Antony's will to the Senate, exposing his loyalty to Cleopatra, his desire to be buried in Egypt. The Senate was scandalized. Rome had its enemy, and Octavian had his war. The final blow came at Actium, 31 BCE, a vast naval battle on the Ionian Sea. Antony and Cleopatra commanded a massive fleet, but Octavian's admiral, Agrippa, boxed them in. Their ships were trapped, scattered, destroyed. Antony and Cleopatra fled the battle. Their alliance crumbled. 1 year later, their story ended in self-inflicted ruin. Octavian entered Alexandria not as a conqueror, but as the last man standing. Egypt became a Roman province. Its treasures flowed into Roman coffers, and Octavian returned to Rome in quiet triumph. He came back not as a tyrant, but as a healer. Rome was weary. It wanted peace, not pride. So Octavian played the final card in his long, careful game. In 27 BCE, he offered to resign, to return power to the Senate. It was, of course, a performance. The Senate begged him to stay. They gave him new powers, a new name, Augustus, the revered one. He wasn't a king. He wasn't a dictator, but he would be emperor in all but title. Rome had changed forever. Under Augustus, the Republic became an illusion. The Senate still met. Elections still happened. But every major decision flowed through one man. He controlled the army, the treasury, the provinces, and public morals. He rebuilt temples, repaired roads, restored grain supplies. The people called it peace. Augustus called it the Pax Romana. After decades of blood and chaos, Rome finally felt stable, and the people didn't care what it cost. They gave him statues, worshipped his genius, and taught their children to revere him as a god. But Augustus never forgot what kept power safe: fear and control. He banished his own daughter when her lifestyle threatened his image. He exiled potential rivals. Anyone too popular, too independent, too inconvenient was removed. He arranged and rearranged the line of succession like a master chess player, always staying one move ahead. He was not cruel, not openly. He smiled. He offered bread, games, and laws. But behind the smile was steel. And those who saw it too late never saw anything again. He ruled for over 4 decades. By the time Augustus died in 14 CE, most Romans had never known another ruler. The Senate declared him a god. Temples were raised in his honor. His face was stamped into marble and coin across 3 continents. The sickly boy who arrived in Rome as Caesar's heir had become the architect of an empire. He didn't just reshape Rome, he redefined what power looked like: quiet, patient, permanent. Augustus did not take Rome by force. He took it by offering peace when the world was tired of war. He buried the Republic with honors and replaced it with obedience. And the people loved him for it. Maybe they were right. Maybe Rome needed an emperor. But Augustus left behind a warning, written not in words, but in silence. Empires are not born with thunder. They rise on whispers, promises, and the illusion that nothing has changed until it's far too late.